a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Polygraph. A polygraph, popularly referred to as a lie detector, is a device or procedure that measures and records several physiological indicators such as blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and skin conductivity while a person is asked and answers a series of questions. The belief underpinning the use of the polygraph is that deceptive answers will produce physiological responses that can be differentiated from those associated with non-deceptive answers. There are, however, no specific physiological reactions associated with lying, making it difficult to identify factors that separate liars from truth-tellers. Polygraph examiners also prefer to use their own individual scoring method, as opposed to computerized techniques, as they may more easily defend their own evaluations. The polygraph was invented in 1921 by John Augustus Larson, a medical student at the University of California, Berkeley, and a police officer of the Berkeley Police Department in Berkeley, California. Further work on the device was done by Leonard Keeler. As Larson's protege, Keeler updated the device by making it portable and added the galvanic skin response to it in 1939. His device was then purchased by the FBI and served as the prototype of the modern polygraph. In some countries, polygraphs are used as an interrogation tool with criminal suspects or candidates for sensitive public or private sector employment. U.S. law enforcement and federal government agencies such as the FBI, NSA and the CIA, and many police departments such as the LAPD and the Virginia State Police use polygraph examinations to interrogate suspects and screen new employees. Within the U.S. federal government, a polygraph examination is also referred to as a psychophysiological detection of deception examination. The control question test, also known as the probable lie test, was developed to overcome or mitigate the problems with the relevant-irrelevant testing method. Although the relevant questions in the probable lie test are used to obtain a reaction from liars, the physiological reactions that distinguish liars may also occur in innocent individuals who fear a false detection or feel passionately that they did not commit the crime. Therefore, although a physiological reaction may be occurring, the reasoning behind the response may be different. Further examination of the probable lie test has indicated that it is biased against innocent subjects. Those who are unable to think of a lie related to the relevant question will automatically fail the test. Polygraph examiners, or polygraphers, are licensed or regulated in some jurisdictions. The American Polygraph Association sets standards for courses of training of polygraph operators, though it does not certify individual examiners. Testing procedure. The examiner typically begins polygraph test sessions with a pre-test interview to gain some preliminary information which will later be used to develop diagnostic questions. Then the tester will explain how the polygraph is supposed to work, emphasizing that it can detect lies and that it is important to answer truthfully. Then a STEM test is often conducted. The subject is asked to deliberately lie and then the tester reports that he was able to detect this lie. Guilty subjects are likely to become more anxious when they are reminded of the test's validity. However, there are risks of innocent subjects being equally or more anxious than the guilty. Then the actual test starts. Some of the questions asked are irrelevant, others are diagnostic questions, and the remainder are the relevant questions that the tester is really interested in. The different types of questions alternate. The test is passed if the physiological responses to the diagnostic questions are larger than those during the relevant questions. Criticisms have been given regarding the validity of the administration of the control question technique. The CQT may be vulnerable to being conducted in an interrogation-like fashion. This kind of interrogation style would elicit a nervous response from innocent and guilty suspects alike. There are several other ways of administering the questions. An alternative is the guilty knowledge test, or the concealed information test, which is used in Japan. The administration of this test is given to prevent potential errors that may arise from the questioning style. The test is usually conducted by a tester with no knowledge of the crime or circumstances in question. The administrator tests the participant on their knowledge of the crime that would not be known to an innocent person. For example, was the crime committed with a .45 or a 9mm? The questions are in multiple choice and the participant is rated on how they react to the correct answer. If they react strongly to the guilty information, then proponents of the test believe that it is likely that they know facts relevant to the case. This administration is considered more valid by supporters of the test because it contains many safeguards to avoid the risk of the administrator influencing the results. Effectiveness. The efficacy of polygraphs is debated in the scientific community. In 1991, two-thirds of the scientific community who have the requisite background to evaluate polygraph procedures considered polygraphy to be pseudoscience. In 2002, a review by the National Research Council found that, in populations untrained in countermeasures, specific incident polygraph tests can discriminate lying from truth-telling at rates well above chance, though well below perfection. The review also warns against generalization from these findings to justify the use of polygraphs. Polygraph accuracy for screening purposes is almost certainly lower than what can be achieved by specific incident polygraph tests in the field, and notes some examinees may be able to take countermeasures to produce deceptive results. The validity of polygraph testing is again called into question with the relevant-irrelevant testing technique, designed to gauge reactions of subjects against crime questions and other non-crime-related questions. Studies have indicated that this questioning technique is not ideal, as many innocent subjects exert a heightened physiological reaction to the crime-relevant questions. Polygraphy is widely criticized. Despite claims of 90% validity by polygraph advocates, the National Research Council has found no evidence of effectiveness. The utility among sex offenders is also poor, with insufficient evidence to support accuracy or improved outcomes in this population. Even using the high estimates of the polygraph's accuracy, false positives do occur, and these people suffer the consequences of failing the polygraph. In the 1998 U.S. Supreme Court case United States v. Sheffer, the majority stated that there is simply no consensus that polygraph evidence is reliable. And, unlike other expert witnesses who testify about factual matters outside the juror's knowledge, such as the analysis of fingerprints, ballistics, or DNA found at a crime scene, a polygraph expert can supply the jury only with another opinion. The Supreme Court summarized their findings by stating that the use of polygraph was little better than could be obtained by the toss of a coin. In 2005, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals stated that polygraphy did not enjoy general acceptance from the scientific community. In 2001, William Iacono, professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of Minnesota, concluded that, although the CQT control question test may be useful as an investigative aid and tool to induce confessions, it does not pass muster as a scientifically credible test. CQT theory is based on naive, implausible assumptions indicating that it is biased against innocent individuals, and that it can be beaten simply by artificially augmenting responses to control questions, although it is not possible to adequately assess the error rate of the CQT. Both of these conclusions are supported by published research findings in the best social science journals. Although defense attorneys often attempt to have the results of friendly CQTs admitted as evidence in court, there is no evidence supporting their validity and ample reason to doubt it. Members of scientific organizations who have the requisite background to evaluate the CQT are overwhelmingly skeptical of the claims made by polygraph proponents. Summarizing the consensus in psychological research, Professor David W. Martin, Ph.D., from North Carolina State University, states that people have tried to use the polygraph for measuring human emotions, but there is simply no royal road to human emotions. Therefore, since one cannot reliably measure human emotions, the idea of valid detection of truth or falsehood through measuring respiratory rate, blood volume, pulse rate and galvanic skin response is a mere pretense. Psychologists cannot ascertain what emotions one has, with or without the use of polygraph. Polygraphs measure arousal, which can be affected by anxiety disorders such as post-traumatic stress disorder, nervousness, fear, confusion, hypoglycemia, psychosis, depression, substance-induced states, substance withdrawal state or other emotions. Polygraphs do not measure lies. A polygraph cannot differentiate anxiety caused by dishonesty and anxiety caused by something else. The polygraph is inherently subjective. It relies heavily on interpretation by the examiner, so human error and bias can result in the examiner drawing the wrong conclusion. National Academy of Sciences. The accuracy of the polygraph has been contested almost since the introduction of the device. In 2003, the National Academy of Sciences issued a report entitled, "The Polygraph and Lie Detection." The NAS found that the majority of polygraph research was unreliable, unscientific and biased, concluding that 57 of the approximately 80 research studies that the American Polygraph Association relies on to come to their conclusions were significantly flawed. These studies did show that specific incident polygraph testing, in a person untrained in countermeasures, could discern a truth at a level greater than chance, yet short of perfection. However, due to several flaws, the levels of accuracy shown in these studies are almost certainly higher than actual polygraph accuracy of specific incident testing in the field. When polygraphs are used as a screening tool, the level of accuracy drops to such a level that its accuracy in distinguishing actual or potential security violators from innocent test takers is insufficient to justify reliance on its use in employee security screening in federal agencies. The NAS concluded that the polygraph may have some utility, but that there is little basis for the expectation that a polygraph test could have extremely high accuracy. The NAS conclusions parallel those of the earlier United States Congress Office of Technology Assessment report, Scientific Validity of Polygraph Testing, a Research Review and Evaluation. Similarly, a report to Congress by the Moynihan Commission on Government Secrecy on National Security concluded that the few government-sponsored scientific research reports on polygraph validity, especially those focusing on the screening of applicants for employment, indicate that the polygraph is neither scientifically valid nor especially effective beyond its ability to generate admissions. Despite the NAS finding of a high rate of false positives, failures to expose individuals such as Aldrich Ames and Larry Wu Tai Chin, and other inabilities to show a scientific justification for the use of the polygraph, it continues to be employed. Countermeasures. Several countermeasures designed to pass polygraph tests have been described. Asked how he passed the polygraph test, Central Intelligence Agency officer turned KGB Mol Aldrich Ames explained that he sought advice from his Soviet handler and received the simple instruction to get a good night's sleep and rest, and go into the test rested and relaxed. Be nice to the polygraph examiner, develop a rapport, and be cooperative and try to maintain your calm. Additionally, Ames explained, there's no special magic. Confidence is what does it. Confidence and a friendly relationship with the examiner. Rapport, where you smile and you make him think that you like him. Other suggestions for countermeasures include for the subject to mentally record the control and relevant questions as the examiner reviews them before the interrogation begins. During the interrogation, the subject is supposed to carefully control their breathing while answering the relevant questions, and to try to artificially increase their heart rate during the control questions. For example, by thinking of something scary or exciting, or by pricking themselves with a pointed object concealed somewhere on their body. In this way, the results will not show a significant reaction to any of the relevant questions. There are two types of countermeasures: general state and specific point. Use. Law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies in the United States are by far the biggest users of polygraph technology. In the United States alone, most federal law enforcement agencies either employ their own polygraph examiners or use the services of examiners employed in other agencies. In 1978, Richard Helms, the 8th Director of Central Intelligence, stated that Susan McCarthy of Salon said in 2000 that the polygraph is an American phenomenon, with limited use in a few countries, such as Canada, Israel, and Japan. Canada. In Canada, the 1987 decision of R. v. Belland, the Supreme Court of Canada rejected the use of polygraph results as evidence in court. This decision did not, however, affect the use of the polygraph in criminal investigations. The polygraph is regularly used as a forensic tool in the investigation of criminal acts, and sometimes employed in the screening of employees for government organizations. In the province of Ontario, the use of polygraphs is not permitted by an employer. A police force does have the authorization to use a polygraph in the course of the investigation of an offense. United States. In 2018, Wired magazine reported that an estimated 2.5 million polygraph tests given each year in the United States, with a majority administered to paramedics, police officers, firefighters, and state troopers. The average cost to administer the test is more than $700 and is part of a $2 billion industry. Polygraph testimony was admitted by stipulation in 19 states and was subject to the discretion of the trial judge in federal court. The use of polygraph in court testimony remains controversial, although it is used extensively in post-conviction supervision, particularly of sex offenders. In Daubert v. Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, the old Frye standard was lifted and all forensic evidence, including polygraph, had to meet the new Daubert standard, in which underlying reasoning or methodology is scientifically valid and properly can be applied to the facts at issue. While polygraph tests are commonly used in police investigations in the U.S., no defendant or witness can be forced to undergo the test. In United States v. Sheffer, the U.S. Supreme Court left it up to individual jurisdictions whether polygraph results could be admitted as evidence in court cases. Nevertheless, it is used extensively by prosecutors, defense attorneys, and law enforcement agencies. In the states of Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, Oregon, Delaware and Iowa, it is illegal for any employer to order a polygraph either as conditions to gain employment, or if an employee has been suspected of wrongdoing. The Employee Polygraph Protection Act of 1988 generally prevents employers from using lie detector tests, either for pre-employment screening or during the course of employment, with certain exemptions. As of 2013, about 70,000 job applicants are polygraphed by the federal government on an annual basis. In the United States, the state of New Mexico admits polygraph testing in front of juries under certain circumstances. In many other states, polygraph examiners are permitted to testify in front of judges in various types of hearings. In 2010, the NSA produced a video explaining its polygraph process. The video, 10 minutes long, is titled, "The Truth About the Polygraph," and was posted to the website of the Defense Security Service. Jeff Stein of The Washington Post said that the video portrays various applicants, or actors playing them, "It's not clear," describing everything bad they had heard about the test. The implication being that none of it is true. Antipolygraph.org argues that the NSA-produced video omits some information about the polygraph process. It produced a video responding to the NSA video. George Mashk, the founder of the website, accused the NSA polygraph video of being Orwellian. The polygraph was invented in 1921 by John Augustus Larson, a medical student at the University of California, Berkeley, and a police officer of the Berkeley Police Department in Berkeley, California. The polygraph was on the Encyclopaedia Britannica 2003 list of greatest inventions, described as inventions that have had profound effects on human life for better or worse. In 2013, the U.S. federal government had begun indicting individuals who stated that they were teaching methods on how to defeat a polygraph test. During one of those investigations, upwards of 30 federal agencies were involved in investigations of almost 5,000 people who had various degrees of contact with those being prosecuted or who had purchased books or DVDs on the topic of beating polygraph tests. Brought to you by WikiVidi documentaries. Would you like to